Hi everyone, it's lovely to see you. I'm Lorna and we're reading The Mystery of the Smuggler's Wreck by Helen Moss, and this is chapter 17, The Graveyard Trail. Jack had always thought graveyards were creepy, but the one at St Michael's was peaceful and sort of friendly. You could hear the sea rolling in the background and the bees buzzing about in the wildflowers that grew among the long grass. Along with Scott and Emily, he searched for names on the old headstones, scattered in higgledy-piggledy groups under the chestnut trees and lilacs, weathered by wind and sea salt and richly embroidered with the moss and lichen. All the old Castle Key families were gathered there. Trethvicks, Cuttanses, Lovedays and Kerrows, Whites and Tragos, but there were no Pendragons. "Can I help you?" Jack turned to see the curate, Colin Warnock, strolling down the steps from the church, his crest of purple hair glowing in the bright sunlight. Colin waved goodbye to the bell-ringing group he'd been leading and joined the friends who were gazing down at the grave of a 17th century doctor. Jack could see Emily and Scott both racking their brains for the perfect reason to ask Colin about the location of the Pendragon family tomb, without giving away the nature of their investigation. But Jack was too impatient to bother with subterfuge. Colin could be trusted. He'd helped them before and he'd shown Jack how to play the Star Wars theme on the organ last summer. Jack opted for the direct approach. "We're trying to find the Pendragon family tomb." Colin smiled. "Ah, well, you won't find it here. The Pendragons had their own chapel on the estate, tucked away in the woods. It's abandoned now, of course, but all the old family graves would be there." He was still talking as the three friends shouted their thanks and darted out of the graveyard. "To the bikes," Jack cried, as they rocketed into Church Lane. "Let's go find ourselves a chapel." But suddenly Emily's face fell. "Oh no, I've just had a text from Mum. I've got to go and help her with the spring cleaning." Scott grimaced at Jack. "That reminds me, we promised we'd help Aunt Kate do a big supermarket shop in Carrickstowe this afternoon. We have to carry the bags home in the bus for her." Emily checked her watch. "OK, we'll go this evening. Rendezvous here at 1800 hours. "Ah, just the guys I was looking for." The friends looked up to see Joe Gordon hurrying along the lane. Scott shuffled nervously. The last time he'd seen Joe Gordon, the man had been brandishing a plastic Scooby-Doo compass and having a meltdown about silly time-wasting pranks. But he needn't have worried. Joe shook his hand and patted his back. "I got back from Bristol this morning. It seems I owe you an apology, Scott. Kelly showed me the footage from her video camera. You did see the Pendragon compass on the wreck." "I should never have accused you of playing tricks." "It's okay," Scott mumbled. "I was so gutted about the compass not being there I wasn't thinking straight," Joe went on. Then he smiled. "Anyway, I'm giving a talk all about the mermaid dive to the local community this evening. And I'd like you and Emily and Jack, of course, to be the guests of honour. It's in the Great Hall at Pendragon Manor. I hope you can come." Scott thanked Joe politely for the invitation. "Drat," Emily said through her teeth as Joe left. "Now we'll have to wait until tomorrow to look for the chapel." The talk started out okay, Jack thought. Joe Gordon explained that he was diving down to the Mermaid to recover treasure for the Pendragon estate. He showed the audience some cool pictures of divers exploring wrecks in exciting places like Egypt and Vanuatu. Then Joe praised Scott for having spotted an important artefact on the wreck. Jack sighed. You could practically see Scott's head inflating like a balloon. If Joe said another word, it might actually explode. Joe also talked about Emily's bravery in saving Kelly's life. Kelly whooped, "Go girl," and everyone clapped. Emily tried to look modest. Just when Jack was muttering to himself about not getting a mention, he heard his name. Jack Carter and Kelly Mann have been doing some great work tracing family connections back to the heyday of smuggling in Cornwall, Joe said, and there was a round of applause. Jack looked down, trying not to catch Mrs. White's eye. She was sitting in the next row. Maybe he should have just mentioned to Kelly that Mrs. White helped him a bit with that family tree. After that, the lecture went downhill. Joe Gordon started going on about what kind of wood the mermaid was built from and how many nails the carpenters had used. Jack zoned out and gazed around the hall. Who wanted to know this stuff? After what seemed like hours, Joe announced a short break for refreshments. Everyone flocked around Scott and Emily, wanting to hear all about their diving adventures. Jack slunk away from the crowds. He saw Mrs. White approaching. Backing away in case she wanted to know why he'd taken all the credit for her research, he accidentally stood in Mrs. Loveday's foot. Mrs. Loveday began telling everyone how Jack had mugged her for a chocolate cake. Mrs. Bailey, the bossy housekeeper, shot him a suspicious look from behind the drinks table. Had she clocked him escaping from the tunnel under the stairs during the sausage convention yesterday? Feeling like public enemy number one, Jack sidled towards the door. He had to get out of here. Suddenly, he had one of his brainwaves. Instead of going back in for the second half of the boring lecture, why not go and look for the chapel? True, it was pitch dark out there, but if the chapel was somewhere in the grounds of the manor, it couldn't be too far away. It'd be silly not to just have a quick look while he was here. He slipped out the back door. Jack ran to the car park and took the front light from his bike to use as a torch. Then he backtracked to the kitchen garden. At first, it was easy. Light spilled from the windows of the manor and splashed across the greenhouses, wigwams of beanpoles and raspberry canes. There was a hairy moment when a scarecrow loomed out of the shadows, but Jack hurried past and hopped over the wall. Then he was swallowed up by the dark woods. As Jack hurried along the path through the trees, his bike light picked out twisted branches like long bony fingers, what looked like faces leaning out from gnarled tree trunks, and the faint shimmies of leaves as unseen creatures scurried into the undergrowth. Once, the light reflected back from a pair of watchful eyes, a fox or a badger perhaps, or an evil goblin. Owls hooted from the trees, except they didn't go twit-twoo, like they did in storybooks. They howled like the ghosts of demented monkeys. Ghosts. Suddenly, Jack remembered that Pendragon Manor was haunted. I don't believe in ghosts, he reminded himself, but there were a lot of things Jack didn't officially believe in that were suddenly starting to seem very real indeed as he ventured deeper and deeper into the dark woods. Ghouls, vampires, orcs, werewolves and trolls, to name but a few. And now he thought he heard footsteps padding along behind. But whenever he stopped to listen, the phantom stalker stopped too. All he could hear was his heart banging in his ears. Maybe this hadn't been such a great idea. Joe Gordon's talk hadn't been that boring. It'd make much more sense to search for the chapel in the morning light. Jack turned and jogged back along the path. It was getting cold now. He could see his breath and his lungs were rasping. Fog was starting to settle among the trees on either side of the path. He came to a fork and stopped. Which way had he come? Join me for chapter 18.